I want to talk about Karma Police. Karma Police is a song that I have been obsessed with since I heard it, whenever that was. And I'd say the whole album, the whole OK Computer album for me was life-changing. We could pick any song from that album and analyze it, but we're analyzing Karma Police. That's what we're doing. And a couple of things that changed my view of songwriting when I heard Karma Police. First of all, this idea of the beautiful 16-bar intro with all the chords that you're going to hear. And they've used these beautifully placed borrowed chords. And that was the first time, I guess, my ear had heard a borrowed chord strategically placed, a non-diatonic chord inserted in such a way that it grabbed your ear and said, hey, this is something a little bit different. Also, when you look into the chord progression, it's hard to tell what key it's in. It seems obvious at first. It seems like it's going to be in E minor or G major, but there's also a really strong pull to A because it starts on the A minor. So there's an A Dorian kind of vibe. And without getting into the complexity of it, what they're doing there is they're creating this ambiguity about where the tonal center is, which is just such a lovely space to swim in if you can create this kind of intrigue just using some interesting borrowed chords and some interesting progressions. So I'm going to play that intro and you can hear what it's talking about. So we've got this idea of... So let's talk about what chords are in this progression. We start with an A minor and we move to a D over F sharp and then we go to an E minor. And that in a way feels like a home base. It feels like we've arrived at a home base. But then we go up to the G, which is the relative major of E minor. So you could really say, you know, E minor, G major, we're kind of in that space.
And G major and E minor are just the relative.
They're the relative of each other. So you've got one after the other. And then the second time round the chord progression, we have A minor straight to an F chord.
Now, where does that F chord come from? Because it is not diatonic to either G major or E minor.
So if you were saying we're in the key of G, you know, it's a flat 7. It's this kind of flat 7 vibe. If you're in, you know, in E minor, it's creating a Phrygian sound, which is, so it's a modal kind of sound in Phrygian. That F really kind of jumps out at you, and your ears more than anything tell you that doesn't belong. When we say, you know, it doesn't belong, it's beautiful, but it's... And this is the power of a great borrowed chord, I think. For me, what I learnt from this song was you've got essentially 16 bars of music, but you've got one borrowed chord that is so beautifully placed that it creates all of this momentum for the rest of the verse to unfold, and it's so interesting. You know, if you have 16 bars of just purely diatonic intro, it's arguable, you know, it's going to be hard to keep people with it. So that diatonic sequence is going along just fine.
So beautiful. If you want to know more about modal borrowing, you can check out the video there. It's a bit more on modal borrowing.
Yeah. So the second amazing thing about this song is really to do with the structure. It kind of flips the script on its head a little bit. We talk, generally speaking, about the chorus being the big moment. The big, you know, look at me, this is what I'm about, this is what the song's all about. And generally speaking, I think a lot of artists would go bigger in the chorus. More instruments, more layers, more dynamics. It's just bigger, generally speaking. Radiohead in Karma Police go the other way. And again, it's something you don't hear very often, so that when you do hear it, it really makes an impact. So you've got that. So this is the end of the verse. And then the chorus goes, this is what you get. Borrowed chord. This is what you get. So the very understated way that chorus comes in kind of grabs you and says, wow, that's not what I was expecting. It's so understated that you almost feel like they're tricking you.
It's kind of like when a teacher in a classroom of rowdy children gets their attention not by yelling louder and louder, but actually by whispering.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
all the children are quiet.
Yeah. It's amazing. And sectionally, this song is unique. It has this beautiful intro. It introduces the borrowed chord. It brings back another borrowed chord with what is a very diatonic, chorus. C, D, G. Can't have it more diatonic. And then hits you with a G flat. It's like, okay. And it's those little moments that are just sprinkled in there that create so much interest. And finally, you have these beautiful verses, these, subdued or stripped back choruses before it hits you with the bridge. And the bridge, for anyone who's ever heard the song live, the bridge is the big part. The bridge is epic. The bridge is more than 2 minutes long. It's the part where everyone starts swaying at the concert. It's like they've turned the bridge into the outro and they've made it anthemic. Mm-hmm. And again, this kind of flips, the traditional way of using a bridge on its head a little bit. So subdued chorus and then epic anthemic bridge at the end of the song as opposed to just sort of coming in as a little 8-bar thing.
But what strikes me is it's still working with conventional song forms, but just flipping the conventions or expectations of what the sections should sound like in relation to each other. But it's not like completely different. You can still identify the different sections of the songs and understand them in relationship to each other and hear the chorus as the chorus, even though it's a subdued chorus, and hear the bridge as a bridge, even though it's like a big anthemic bridge.
And it makes sense. Sometimes people mess with the structure of a song and it's interesting, but it doesn't feel like a song. It doesn't feel like it's working with the conventions. This song is a classic. It's an iconic song. It absolutely makes sense, but it just does it differently at various points along the way.